Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Behind the Button, the podcast that really lifts the lid on what goes on behind the scenes in the world of pay. I'm Laura Murphy, the CIPP's content editor, and I'm absolutely delighted about the very special guest that we've got speaking to us today. We've gone right to the top and we've got the CEO of HMRC with us. Welcome to the show, JP Marks.
Thanks, Laura. Nice to be here. Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm delighted to support the podcast and it's great that we're in Edinburgh. So thank you so much for being here and look forward to the conversation.
The CIPP and HMRC work really closely together.
Yeah.
So a lot of CIPP members will be familiar with you and who you are. But for anybody who isn't so familiar with you, would you mind talking us through a bit about what it is in your role at HMRC?
Yeah. So my job title is First Permanent Secretary and Chief Executive of the organisation of HMRC. So obviously leading the team is a real fundamental. So we've got just under 70,000 people across all 4 nations and regions of the UK. And actually we've got colleagues based abroad as well. And we are delivering everything from child benefit through to personal tax services, compliance, fraud investigation, borders and trade services as well. I'm also the accounting officer of the organisation, so basically accountable to Parliament for its annual accounts. So we are ourselves a big employer, and Payroll is right at the heart of that. And I'm part of the senior leadership group of the civil service, so helping to be a part of leading the civil service to deliver better public services, hopefully, and serve ministers as part of the government. Yeah.
So a very fast-paced and demanding role there, JP. So what first inspired you to take on the challenge of leading HMRC?
So I've been in the public sector most of my career, apart from right at the beginning where I worked for a small consultancy firm. And I worked with HMRC over 2 decades ago on things like individual savings accounts, pensions reform, child trust fund. And then I ended up in DWP working on universal credit. So CIPP members will be well versed in the rollout of things like real-time information reporting of earnings, which was a major part of that transformation. So we worked with HMRC through that period to transform social security. So I've worked with the organisation throughout my career. I was latterly Permanent Secretary of the Scottish Government, where we implemented tax reform, again working with HMRC. So the opportunity arose to apply for the role, do so and lead the organisation based in Edinburgh, which is where my family live. And it's an organisation that combines strategy, change and delivery. Obviously affects businesses and families across the UK, and a real opportunity to deliver public service transformation, which is what I enjoy. So it's a busy time, there's a lot going on, but we're making good progress.
Within all that, what would you say is the one single most exciting thing about your role?
The thing about HMRC is everything has scale to it. Sometimes that can be a bit daunting, but also the potential is exciting. So when we get it right, we can have a very serious impact, and that can be important. So, we'll probably come on to our transformation and the tax gap, but if we can be successful in ensuring that we increasingly collect the tax that is due, then that raises billions of pounds for the Exchequer, which can be spent on our NHS, on schools, on transport, etc., and pay down borrowing costs or whatever the Chancellor wants to use it for. So we ultimately collect the public revenue that funds our public services that we all depend on and fund the nation. So we talk about that purpose a lot with our teams, because we think it's important that they can connect to it and feel that sense of purpose in their work. And like I say, we are seeing important progress, raising record revenues. Last year we exceeded our yield targets. And the OBR recently set out the long-term forecast on the tax gap, and expecting to see that fall through the spending review period. So we feel like we've made good decisions to make progress, and those billions of pounds will ultimately fund the public services we all depend on.
You mentioned a little bit earlier on about your sort of career history. Now, I know you haven't worked in sort of a traditional payroll role, so you haven't processed weekly or monthly pay for workers, for example, but you have been a worker yourself and still are.
Yeah.
So what I'm really interested to hear is, what is your experience of the industry from sort of receiving your pay slips to liaising with the payroll team?
Yeah.
What are sort of your views and experiences of the pay professions?
Well, look, always has been really professional and right at the heart of the organisation. So I mentioned earlier, HMRC is a big employer. We need to get payroll right. It has to go well. We all know what it feels like if it doesn't and there's a glitch. So that kind of, working under pressure, responding to employees' concerns and questions in a timely way really matters. And, in the Scottish Government, we implemented a new Oracle ERP system, not just for ourselves, but for around 30 other organisations as a shared service as well. And our HR, finance and payroll modules were obviously just essential to get right. A lot of user testing, a lot of careful handling in go live and transition. And then, if I'm really honest, a lot of hypercare after the fact to ensure that we responded rapidly to employee concerns. So I have experienced when it goes well, which is the vast majority of the time, but I have also experienced it when it can hit a bump in the road, and I know the pressure that creates for colleagues. So no, I'm really grateful to the hard work that everyone puts into it, and clearly for the tax system, payroll is right at the heart of what we already do. I mentioned RTI earlier. We'll come on to national insurance and pay as you earn and expenses and student loans and you name it. Payroll's at the heart of it. But yeah, understanding opportunities to improve that experience for your members, for the industry, and ultimately, of course, for the public is really fundamental to our transformation.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, we often say payroll does sit at the heart of an organisation because you are, at the end of the day, funding somebody's livelihood, their ability to pay their mortgage, their bills, to put food on the table. So yeah, I'm really glad that you see how important it is as well.
Yeah.
So obviously the CIPP, its main audience is payroll professionals who ultimately aid HMRC in the collection of employment taxes, so national insurance and pay as you earn income tax.
Yeah.
As the most senior individual in HMRC, what one thing would you like to say to payrollers today?
Well, I would start by saying thank you, because, the day-to-day functioning of the UK tax system, as you say, Laura, is really dependent on their professionalism. And the vast majority of, the PAYE, income tax, national insurance system, as you were referring to, operates really well every day, often in a digital environment, often real time, and it is working very, very well. Where there are moments where there are challenges or concerns, and we'll come on to no doubt the sort of theme around co-design and partnership. For me, obviously, it's really important we then hear that and respond well. But yeah, no, my first message would be to say thank you for the professionalism and the support. I think the opportunity for us in the future is to collaborate on the opportunity, including where there are chances for us to do more with intermediation, the use of advanced technology, and the support of the development of the software market to support tax services. And payroll sits right at the heart of that, and it's been really an important part of the co-design and development of that system. So yeah, I'd start with thank you, grateful for the professionalism and conscious that there's more opportunities in the years ahead.
And that will be music to our listeners' ears, that, there are opportunities to collaborate.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So I want to turn my attention to a huge piece of work that HMRC has been focusing on. And I believe you referenced it a bit earlier on, and that is the transformation roadmap, which you released in July of 2025. So that sets out an ambitious timeline for lots of HMRC's initiatives.
Yeah.
And one of the big ones is making HMRC digital first by approach.
Yeah.
So I want to delve into that a little bit further. But first of all, could you explain what digital first actually looks like and means?
Yeah. So if you take customer interactions with HMRC, this time last year, around 70 to 75% of those would be digital, and then the rest would either be over the phone or via correspondence mainly. We are under a digital first strategy, trying to ensure across our taxes and across our services the functionality needed to support customers' inquiries and needs is available online. So that's the point around digital first or by default, so that it is there, accessible and functional, such that you don't need to ring or you don't need to write in the vast majority of cases. And then that is easy to use. People can navigate it well, and wherever possible they're given support and nudges either in real time or as close to as possible to keep them on track. So a sort of self-serve environment that people are probably very used to already in terms of online banking and other digital services already in their lives. We're making good progress. So, if I take child benefit, we've moved that service into our HMRC app. I would really encourage anyone listening who's not downloaded it to do so, because you will see functionality in there that enables you to stay up to date with your taxes and understand the position you're in, but also we will continue to release new functionality into there in the months and years ahead. But as a result of moving child benefit into the app, making it a much more digital customer journey, we increasingly see the vast majority of new claims, changes, payments can be automated end to end in a experience that is much improved for customers. Still with additional support for those that need it. So even though we're talking about 90% digital interactions by 2030, that still means 1 in 10 is not. And we will be ensuring that we're doing more to invest in the additional support model as well, including working with voluntary and community sector partners for those that don't particularly want to engage with HMRC but do need to get extra support. So that would be what Digital First is all about. And then obviously underpinning all of that is a lot of features, a lot of releases of new functionality to shift the channel. And to be honest, there's no one big thing. It is a lot of marginal gains, constant work, understanding across customer journeys. Where are the moments when someone drops out of a digital journey and needs to ring? What can we do to understand what caused that and ensure that the functionality is improved such that they are supported to be to stay online and resolve their inquiry once and done wherever possible. Confident we can do it. As of last month, we're up to about 80% digital. So we're motoring along. Obviously, it gets harder the closer you get to the top of the mountain. So I'm not expecting that rate to be sustained over the next, say, 2 years, although that would be lovely. But we're totally focused on ensuring across our tax regimes, we've got empowered regime owners, working with our frontline teams to understand for each of our journeys, where are those pain points, where are those points of demand, where people drop out of journeys, and then what we can do to shift the channel and support them to stay online. And in the end, we know that will happen because we deliver the best digital experience available. And so it isn't about trying to, achieve a cheaper outcome. It's about achieving the best outcome. That way people can manage their tax affairs when they want to through their phone in a secure environment where they feel confident.
Yep, so it sounds like these changes are being made, but everything is constantly being monitored to make sure it's being done in the best possible way and to support people through that change. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I mean, we, as I have learned rapidly, are operating in a pretty intensive environment, and when things go wrong we hear about it pretty quickly, and quite right too. So we do have to make sure that we do our user testing, we're good on intelligent challenge, when we want to test something, if we can do it as an MVP and then scale it carefully with low volume, of course, that's sensible too. But ultimately comes back, Laura, to the point around co-design and working in the open. We don't want to be, in a bunker designing these features. We want to be working openly around what the opportunities are. And I suppose the point I would add, and we will publish a software strategy in the spring with a roadmap that follows. One of the ways of getting to a digital first tax system is for HMRC not to do all the development itself, but to provide the data through APIs that enable software providers, agents, intermediaries, payroll professionals to develop software solutions that meet need. And I suppose ultimately in a very modern integrated digital economy, you can build off the foundation of making tax digital, look forward to the opportunity of something like e-invoicing, and get to a point where that real-time join up between payroll systems, accountancy systems, invoicing systems, and the tax system is such that real-time data can flow. Customers have a very clear understanding of what their obligations are and are nudged to stay up to date. And that would be, the end destination if we can get there.
Yeah. And I know another big area within the roadmap is the tax gap again.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that earlier. So not everyone will be familiar with what actually the tax gap is.
Yeah.
So can you share with us what the tax gap means and what it looks like?
Yeah, so HMRC has a bunch of very good analysts who work hard to understand what the tax gap is. Basically, the vast majority of people in this country pay their taxes on time voluntarily, which is great and it'd be fabulous if they just keep doing that, please. More ideal. HMRC then engages with those customers through our compliance regimes, either upstream or downstream, to ensure that for those that might have not realised it, but they've made an error, and or they haven't complied with all of the rules at the right time or paid the right amount, that they do so. And basically the voluntary tax revenue is around 90%. Another 5% comes from HMRC's work. So all of that comes into the exchequer, available to the government to spend. And the residual gap is the tax gap. And obviously we want to minimise that as low as possible. It has already come down over the last decade to around 5% today. And as I say, we've announced measures in the last 3 fiscal events with this government that has now forecast for the tax gap to fall further in the years ahead. That's a function of 2 things: more capacity for HMRC, so around 5,500 more frontline compliance officers, and 2,400 more debt officers than there would have otherwise been. And those 2 things together will enable us to collect more of the tax that was due, to bring the gap down, but also investing in capability, things like risking, third-party data, whistleblowing, incentive schemes, you name it. We've announced quite a lot of different interventions, all designed to try and minimise that tax gap. Taken together, what will all that mean? It's getting the cash in that is due under the law on time so that it can be invested in our public services. So confident we've got the right plan in place, but as always, the proof will be in the pudding and we've got to deliver it.
Yeah. So what does success look like for HMRC and for yourself once the roadmap has been fully realised?
So there's a few things that kind of, I hope will be true by 2030. So firstly, just tax gap, expectation to continue to see it reduce year on year. You have to sort of add all things equal in brackets, because a whole bunch of other factors might disrupt that, so that we're not in control of obviously the whole environment. But nonetheless, all things equal, the intent is to see the tax gap fall year on year. And as I say, that will be because we do indeed improve our productivity, our risking, our insourcing of third-party data, and our capacity level grows at the rate in which we forecast. So far, so good. We're on track. I expect that to happen, but we've got to do it. The second thing is around customer experience. I mentioned the shift to a digital first, more intermediated, more real-time system. We are, as I say, at 80% digital customer interactions from around 70, 75 this time last year. Need to get to 90 by 2030. So that's another key indicator for us. And then there's this bigger bracket around modernisation and reform, of which channel shift is just one feature, but there are many others as well. We will onboard a new software as a service case management system, a new contact center system as well. And those two things integrated should enable us to deliver much more modern AI-enabled customer services where we can exploit the data across the enterprise more efficiently than we can with our current legacy systems. But also as software as a service, cloud hosted, not accrue the tech debt that we have tended to struggle with historically, and shift the dial on our resilience as well. So we should be able to get to 2030 with a more digital system, with better customer experience, with a lower tax gap that's more secure. And if we can pull all that off and improve engagement and the capability of our workforce at the same time, then that would be a happy outcome.
Yeah. So how can the payroll community support HMRC on this journey?
So the payroll community is right at the heart of what I've just described. And again, I'd sort of emphasise my appreciation for the engagement. So Laura, we were talking about your colleague who's just come on secondment.
Yeah.
To us. I don't know if I'm allowed to name him.
You are.
So thank you to Matt and the team for doing that. But we've got one of your colleagues who's come in on secondment to help us with one of the features around mandation of I think it's in regards to benefits in kind and expenses, and the work we're doing there, and that is a lovely model. You literally reach out to the sector, bring experts inside the development, and leverage all your experience and knowledge to help us get it right. We've been doing that increasingly this year. I think about colleagues like Senga Pryor who've been working with the Making Tax Digital program, and I really like that model. HMRC needs to build trust as in the UK tax system. And that starts, I think, with people understanding who we are, recognizing that, we're human, we have values, we're working hard, we want to deliver better experiences and outcomes for the people we serve. And that, of course, includes the payroll community and your members. So co-design, working in the open, sharing the problems we're trying to solve, and then providing regular updates on how we're going is all part of that. And it's not easy. Like, I've seen this before. I used to lead Job Centre Plus and worked in DWP, and also I saw it in the Scottish Government as well. When you work in quite a highly regulated, high scrutiny political environment, it is quite tempting to bunker down. The risk is that you become risk averse and you disengage. And actually, the opposite is necessary to achieve real system change. But it's not easy because there will be bumps in the road, and then everybody will want to find out who knew what when and who's accountable. And I'm accountable. And so you have to stand up and say, yeah, we are seeking to innovate and we seek to empower our teams, and we do want to test, learn and scale at pace when we think we should. But almost inevitably there will be moments where we have to pause and reflect and learn and make an adjustment. That's all part of the strategy. So we'll give that a go. And looking after the team and, you know, their resilience and their well-being in that environment is all part for it. But yeah, we're trying to work more openly. Hopefully your listeners and partners have seen a bit more of that from us this year. But we've only really just got going with it, and there's plenty more to come.
Yeah. And obviously that's a key part of the roadmap as well, being more agile in your work with stakeholders.
Yeah.
And I did see a separate policy paper as well that talks about engaging stakeholders at the outset of policy changes rather than involving them later down the line. And you referenced Matt Akrigg, my colleague, who, as you say, is seconded into HMRC at the moment for not a short period. He's there for 18 months.
Yeah, thank you.
So that is a key example of great collaboration. Our policy and advisory lead, Samantha O'Sullivan as well, she is co-chair of HMRC's employment and payroll group. So again, just really great key collaboration. So I think you mentioned another example of that while you were talking, but are there any other areas you see coming up where you see that might happen going forward?
Yeah. Well, first of all, a huge thank you to your colleagues who are doing that. And as you say, it's a proper secondment and real commitment of time. And I really hope valuable, and we can share with your members and feedback on why that was all in their interest too. Because look, you know, we want to get it right, and you know, having Matt and the team there really supports us in that regard. Basically, what I've been setting out, Laura, I think, is a philosophy for leadership that I want to apply to everything. You know, I think I will struggle to find a thing where, I mean, obviously there are sort of confidential budget measures where it doesn't always apply. But even then, you know, we do a lot of research. We are always looking at global best practice. So we're always trying to understand what others are doing, what's going on, what the problems are in the tax system, where there might be disincentive effects or distortions going on, or complexity where we want to develop policy options. So once ministers have made decisions and we are into tax administration and implementation, co-design and co-development of the delivery, I think, is essential. So particularly as we get into the more detailed design, I mentioned Making Tax Digital. Anybody who was into Making Tax Digital would fail to miss, Craig Ogilvy's constant broadcast on the latest changes, the latest features. And I love that from the team. You know, they are working really hard. They've been doing road shows all around the UK all year. And let's be honest, it is not easy, because it's not everybody's favourite change. It's our job to implement it as safely and as carefully as we can. We've just announced a whole bunch of other changes in terms of a soft landing, penalty reform, changes to scope, all of which were informed through co-design and engagement with partners and stakeholders and announced by ministers in the budget. And I'm confident we're on track for go live. And that is because the team have worked openly. And they need to know that it's safe to do so, that they will be supported in that way, and to have the empowerment to then respond, because obviously it's not valuable to listen to feedback and then not do anything about it, you know. And so I'm always quite pushy of my team to say, well, what have we done as a result of what we've heard? We've been doing, I had a session recently with Strategic Software Provider Forum, where I was talking about that software strategy that we'll shortly publish. You know, rather than we in HMRC work out the APIs that we can make available, much better that we talk to software developers and say, well, which ones do you need? What do you want? And how do we help you understand that question through user research, through analysis, and then make sure that we are co-designing the roadmap for making more data available, such that the software industry in the UK can innovate to meet need in partnership with us. So that is quite a deliberate area of focus as well. But I would hope, because my senior team are bored of hearing me say this all year, that you won't find an area of HMRC these days that isn't trying to work in the open in one way or the other. Some areas, obviously, it's a bit easier to do than others. But I am asking all my senior team Who are your partners? Who are your stakeholders? Who are your users? How do you understand their interests and needs? And how are you structuring feedback into your policy developments and your delivery in a way that is a force for progress and improvement? And if you can't answer those questions yet, that's okay, but I need you to go away and come back and make sure you can next time, because my expectation with that empowerment is that you're then accountable because you care about that end-to-end system and you want to build trust and engagement, and that is got to be fundamental to the culture of our leadership of HMRC.
Yeah, and you mentioned transparency and trust there. And I have seen, a movement towards that during your time in post. So it has been a period of significant change at HMRC over the past few months, which must have been extremely challenging for you. But what leadership lessons have you learned from that period of change?
I'm really pleased that you've noticed, because I'll be really honest, as far as I'm concerned, I've only just started. So it's great that that's coming back at us and being felt. For me, there's a huge way to go, so I'm pleased with how it's got started. Look, there's a great team in HMRC. I'm really delighted with the team. We have made some appointments this year as well. So, we've brought in new AI director, a new resilience director recently, two new transformation director. We're just recruiting into our compliance team. So there is a thing about making sure we've got the capabilities, but there is also a wonderful team already there who have worked through the pandemic, delivered the furlough scheme, worked through Brexit, delivered the Windsor framework arrangements, worked through, an inflationary shock, and kept the tax system on track, and with frozen thresholds and an increasing level of demand, are improving service standards. And it's not an easy public service to deliver because, of course, almost by definition, everyone's got an opinion. Everybody would like to affect change. But what I find amongst the team is high integrity, deep expertise, a load of resilience. And my job really is to ensure the enablers are there, continue to build those capabilities, maximize empowerment, support the team to test, learn, iterate, scale, and improve wherever they can. And also look after them when there's a few bumps in the road, which there will be. So far so good. The progress is there. We've got some good potential. I think there's a lot more still to come. But we are grappling with really complex legacy systems. And I suppose if there's one thing that I find frustrating, but I guess it's the nature of, public sector systems I've seen over the last decade, if I'm really honest, across systems, is we have, legacy tech that needs to be transformed. That process is underway, but it's going to take us a few years to get it done.
I want to dive a little bit more into the leadership side of things, JP. So I read a really lovely article, which almost did a roundup of your year at HMRC.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really stuck out to me was that you mentioned that you really want to lead with kindness.
Yeah.
So talk to me about why that's so important to you.
So this is something that I have thought a lot about in terms of leadership, particularly over the last, say, 5 years or so, I think. So I referenced in that article, for example, working with Peter Schofield through the pandemic. Wonderful leader, really inspired me and supported me through that. What was let's be honest, global trauma, where we did our best in Job Centre Plus to, do the right thing and support people to access benefits when they needed to. And then when I went to the Scottish Government, I worked with some brilliant leaders, civil servants and partners. And in Scotland, people talk about kindness and leadership a lot and talk about values, dignity and respect in the context of social security, for example. And I think about, a colleague like Leslie Fraser, who I used to work with in the Scottish Government, who's still there, absolutely fabulous. And we would regularly talk about leading with kindness through tough times, which we faced a fair few along the way. And I think it really matters, because if you can create an environment for psychological safety where people know it's okay to take a level of managed risk, they know it's okay to innovate, they know if something goes wrong, you'll look after them. That doesn't mean there's not a high level of accountability and we're not still trying to be hard-edged in driving an improvement in productivity or whatever, but it is a human experience. And like you were saying before we started the podcast, we're at work a lot. And if it doesn't feel like a positive place to be, well, there's plenty of other options, aren't there, and it's a competitive labour market. So, yeah, I'm focusing a lot with my senior team on trust, respect, kindness, collaboration. And in a big organisation like HMRC, those values really matter, because it's very easy to disappear into your silo and do your thing. And most of the power of transformation comes through collaboration across the boundaries. And that's true whether you're in the NHS, the justice system, or the tax system. And it's work in progress, because there'll be days I don't get it right. But it's a thing I think we should all nurture more, particularly in the environment we operate in these days, which can be pretty fraught at times. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, beforehand we were talking about this, and I think in the payroll profession, it is so important that we look after each other's well-being, because it is such a fast-paced, demanding role. We need to make sure that we're looking after ourselves as well. Yeah. So it's a really important point. So during your time at HMRC, what's been the most surprising or rewarding moment?
I mean, the privilege of the job is the team, and I sort of as an innate part of my leadership really is I kind of have to get out and meet people, because that's how I sort of learn and connect with the world. So I guess over the last year, I have been, Glasgow, Gartcosh, East Kilbride, Belfast, Newcastle, Stratford, Birmingham, Liverpool, Leeds, you name it. And it is lovely to meet the team. The teams are operating everything from oil and gas through to R&D, through to child benefit, tax credits, PAYE, you name it. So the range is vast. And the coverage is significant. It's important as a leader not to find that too daunting, because you sort of find yourself thinking, golly, got to get your head around all of this. But actually, increasingly, you remember it is about the purpose, tone, culture, values, leadership. Have we got the right strategy? Is that understood? Do people have a sense the organisation's going in the right direction? Do they think you're going to invest and look after their well-being and improve their environment? So we've been putting a massive amount of energy into improving engagement, because we know transformation is a team sport and you need a highly engaged, self-actualized, capable workforce who are empowered to deliver it. And that's my job, is to create that environment. So I guess, the joy of the year so far for me has been getting to know the team.
That's lovely. The podcast is called Behind the Button, because we really want to shine a light on the individuals behind the world of pay. So I want to get to know you a little bit as a person, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So as we've discussed, you are in a very fast-paced, demanding role. How do you unwind in your spare time?
So I've got 2 young daughters, and they both play under 10s, under 12s football, and I do some coaching for the under 10s, and I really am enjoying that. Basically, I can no longer play football, so I have to live my sporting ambition through someone else's life, and it's a joy. But yeah, I really enjoy that. Cycle to work. I'll be honest as well, though, over now what feels like a while, I've been lucky to have some really exciting jobs, and I mentioned some of the things we led through in the Scottish Government, or, I think back to, being PPS to Yvette Cooper or Ian Duncan Smith, and some of the times I've seen. And I work quite hard on sort of turning it all off when I go home thing, because you can't change it. It's done. We'll start again in the morning and focus on the family. And we're loving living in Scotland. Family are well. Edinburgh's a joy, as you know.
Beautiful city.
Beautiful, particularly this time of year. Princes Street is just, enchanting. And we've been here a few years now and enjoying life. So, I'm always say to myself, are we doing the best we can? And if we did that today, that's great. And we'll start again tomorrow.
That's a great motto. And the other thing I sort of wanted to ask you about was, how do you ensure that you're bringing fresh ideas into HMRC?
So that's really important. And I think it's quite difficult to not let yourself fall behind the sort of frontier of what's possible. So, for example, one of the things we will do is draw on the very best of the private sector. So we have a transformation partner we've just onboarded, which working with Public Digital, that is working really well, organising a set of accelerators in our organisation so that we can learn by doing and iterate through the organisation. And I'm really excited by that. I'm recently been meeting a number of our strategic partners. We work with, AWS, with Microsoft, Accenture, Deloitte, you name it. We're working with them to understand the opportunities and to innovate wherever we can. Some of that will be in our service delivery. Some of it might be in a more of a consultancy environment. And then for me personally, one of the things I enjoy doing is working with Chris and Kat and the Cabinet Office team on our civil service leadership program. We're off to, we were at IBM earlier this year learning about latest transformation with AI. Obviously, it's a core enabler for us. We already do a huge amount, more to come. So yes, I think, back to that point around partnership, working with the best in industry, understanding opportunities of innovation, and then bringing it into the team so that we can be maybe not absolutely on the frontier. We might let someone else just find where that is first, but not far behind.
So away from your work with HMRC, I know that you sit on the board for the RLNI. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, JP, and whether that's an organisation that is really close to your heart, or if you just wanted to give something back sort of more generally?
So I am chair of trustees for the Lifeboat Fund, which is a civil service fund that goes back over 100 years, where we raise money for the RNLI and enable them to invest that in, new lifeboats and lifeboat stations. In fact, we have just helped fund new stations and lifeboats that will be going live in 2026, one in Kukubri and one in Dart. So that's great to see. I grew up in an island community by the sea. Spent a lot of my life falling in the sea off little boats mainly, and occasionally the RNLI would be passing and would drag us out, and we'd watch them training. And to be honest, if I could be on a lifeboat crew, I would absolutely love it, but struggle a bit to create the time at the minute. But I've been lucky to go on some lifeboats and meet the crews, and they obviously incredible volunteers who save lives all year round in some really horrendous conditions. So it's a privilege to give back. I really enjoy working with the voluntary sector in HMRC. We have a set of partnerships to offer additional support. I was visiting one of our charities who are delivering advisory support in Glasgow earlier this year, which was great to do. And I suppose, anyone who's thinking about leadership, I would really encourage you to take those types of opportunities, because it diversifies your experience. You build new networks, you connect with other colleagues, and you learn a lot more about the world in which we live. So no, I enjoy doing that, and doing a few other things as well, which is fun. So yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So if you weren't working in public sector, what do you think you'd be doing?
Well, I'd probably quite like to be a youth football coach. That would be fun. But I'd have to do quite a lot more training. I do really enjoy that sort of teaching, coaching world. So yeah, when it's all over in the civil service, that might be a thing. So, but if I'm really honest, totally focused on HMRC and leading this organisation to 2030 and hopefully beyond. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I do have one final ask of you, JP, if that's okay. So on Behind the Button, we ask our guests to leave a question for the next guest. So what would your question be for our next guest?
So Laura, my question would be, if you weren't working in the payroll industry, what would you like to be doing instead?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Good luck with the podcast. Wish you well in the future. Thank you.
If you enjoyed our first episode, hit subscribe or follow Behind the Button on your favourite podcast player. And if you're watching us on YouTube, tap the like button, drop us a comment, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. We've got lots more great guests lined up to tell their payroll stories. And we'd love to get questions, suggestions, and stories direct from you. Just email behindthebutton@cipp.org.uk. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.